the more I realize I don't know about the word. When I first started preaching, I knew everything. 30 years later, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I mean, so the idea, but the reality is small. You think you know everything. Please read this. The problem with closed-minded people is that their mouth is always open because they think they know everything. And the last one here, if only closed minds came with closed mouth, what a wonderful world it would be. So the idea is, so experts are dismissed. So we've talked about a few sources, but let's talk about the source. The primary source. The source of sharp and also strong conflicts. Now, all these are sources. You got the lack of trust, the threats to status, that's true. But these sources right here, expectations diminished. That the expectations were not met. And as a result, there ended up being this chasm, this schism, this gap that occurred as well. We talked this idea, so this point right here, last year we talked about disappointment being in here, but this also exists for disagreements. That there was an expectation that somebody was going to do something, and they didn't do it, and they disagreed on what needed to be done, or how it needed to be done, or when it needed to be done, and as a result, there was a huge gap between expectation and reality. Now here's the point. So expectation is, I want to. Reality is, but. The whole lot of folk, the man that dated Titi, the last man before he got put in grave, he was the one, he wanted to give her, I think, something on the 14th of February, but he realized he'd get a whole lot more on the 15th. He got put out the house. So there's a disconnect between the expectation and the reality. What happened? What does it say right here? The mindset matters. You know the next one. Change your. What also was happening here? Words matter. Go and do it. What has happened here? Change your words. Change your life. Now let's read all these together. Change your mindset. Change your words. Change your expectations. Change your life. I cannot expect low and receive high. If I'm going, the first step of receiving high is to expect high. But if I expect low, high is not going to come. I've already lowered the bar for what that I'm supposed to have because I'm not even expecting what God has already provided. So if I change my mindset, if I change my words, if I change my expectation, the whole life. So if you don't like your life, change your mindset. You don't like your life, change your words. You don't like your life, change your mindset. And as a result, we change the expectations and the words and the mindset. Life will change every time. Can you just give God a hand clap of praise just for knowing that as well? So it's idea about expectations. Read this with me, please. Expect nothing and be grateful for everything. Expect nothing from people, but be grateful for everything they do. Expect nothing, because here's the point. We keep expecting things from folk who showed you they're not going to do it. You had the same Secret Santa for the last 4 years. They said at that point, don't spend any more than $25. You right there, $24.95, $24.99, $24.98, and they spend 2 pennies. The idea they didn't recognize that we keep expecting more. And so expect nothing from people. Expect everything from God, but be grateful for whatever they do. Expect nothing. If I lower my expectations, disappointment can't come. If I lower, now here's the point. I'm not saying they're not capable. Sometimes they just choose not to. They could have picked you up on time. They just chose not to. See, you didn't check with them and let them know that the game was on. So you were out here to bust up out here all dressed and wet, thought you were going on a date, and then what happened? They could do it, they just chose not to do it. Now here's the point. Read this now. Expect nothing from people. Expect everything from God. Can you use out and give God a, that's what it is, right? That's expectation. So now when I know that God has already provided it, I can now be in position to receive it and expect what God has already done. So right here from Psalm 62, 5-6. My expectation is from the Lord. Expect the unexpected. Would you agree with me? Everybody, it's time for us to raise our expectations. Are you with me? It's time to raise I say it is time to raise our expectations. I don't care what happened last year. Don't care what happened yesterday. Now I know how good God is, and I'm going to raise my expectations to receive what God has promised. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all I could ask or think, according to the power that works within me, from Ephesians 3:20. God has already given his best. So now it's time to start expecting higher, receiving higher. Now here's what I have found. If you fill your hands up with average, there's no room left to go back and receive the extraordinary. If my hands are full right now, ordinary, I have no space left to get the extraordinary. And that's what a lot of folk are. We've settled for ordinary. Ordinary here. And your hands so full, you got to put down the ordinary to get the extraordinary. But some kind of way we talk ourselves into thinking, well, I was able to get the ordinary, but now I'm too old now. No, you're not. I'm too big now. No, you're not. I'm too thin right now. No, I'm too young right now. No, God gave his best when Jesus died on the cross to allow us to live an extraordinary life. And God has provided extraordinary favor, extraordinary blessings, and extraordinary breakthrough. So I'm not going to settle for average or ordinary when Jesus died for me to live an extraordinary life. So here's what happens. So it's time for us to start expecting higher. Read this with me, please. High expectations are the key to everything. Read this with me, please. High expectations from what God is doing around us, in us, and also for us. So here's the question. What are your expectations? See, here's the point. See, and a lot of the things I've been sharing already and we'll share this year came as a result of all the things people talked about leaving behind at our New Year's Eve service in 2019. And as a result, on December 31st, our expectations are high. I'm leaving this house, I'm leaving this and this. And then when the next day came, and we still had the same thoughts and the same situations and the same habits, over time, our expectations have just gotten lower and lower and lower. And I'm offering, it's time for us to start expecting high. Amen? Amen. Read this with me, please. This is our confession for this month. Read it together. Because of my complete trust in God, I have high, I have holy, and I have helpful expectations. If you agree with that, please give God a hand clap. Right? We got to have some higher expectations here. So that's what happens right here. Our expectations have to be higher. So here's the point. Now think about this. If someone is a non-believer, they don't even believe in Christ. Right now they're at home, they cooking Antoine pancakes, and here you are at church. And if you are expecting lower than them, where's the testimony about the grace of God? If they don't expect higher than us, and we serve the one, at this point, that we serve a God who raised Jesus from the dead, a God who rescued Daniel from the lion's den, a God that made a way out of no way, and we serve a God like that, and we saw him move yesterday, and don't believe he can move tomorrow. Where is our testimony for the Lord? So if I'm unsaved, and see you come out of church all mad, with low expectations in me, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And just say, no, I trust God, I believe God, I rely on God, I depend on God, because I have high expectations, not because of me, but because of what God has done. I have high expectations, holy expectations, and also helpful expectations, not based on what I do, but based on what Jesus did. Can somebody give God a hand clap of praise right there as well? What he did. So I wanted to share today as we go through here and unpack this idea now lastly regarding this whole idea about this. We started this idea about the disagreements. Now I want to talk about what has been recorded as the first strong and also the sharp disagreement. One of the first church fights among leaders that we have in the scripture here. So if you would right here, repeat after me. I am ready to receive the word. I'm excited about receiving the word. I am prepared to receive the word. Won't you stand even now in the presence of the Lord? Let's read this together from the screen here, from 2 Timothy chapter 4, 1 through 4. And I have one other scripture for us to add to this as well. We know our teaching comes from all 22 scriptures, but we're just going to highlight just a few today. So let's read. This is Paul writing to his son in ministry, Timothy. And I'll talk a little bit more about, as I mentioned last week, about what happened during this time as well. Let's read this together. This is Paul writing. I charge thee, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead, at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. Now read this with me from verse 11. Only Luke is with me. Take Mark, and bring him with you, for he is profitable to me for the ministry. Amen. You may be seated even now in the presence of the Lord. So again, as we talked about last week, I want to just kind of lay this foundation for us again. 2 Timothy is the last letter Paul ever wrote. 2 Timothy chapter 4 is the last chapter he ever wrote. He's imprisoned. And what has happened at this point, so again, the letters are always in a response to something. When he wrote 1 Corinthians, he sent that letter to them. They wrote a letter back to him, so he wrote 2 Corinthians to respond to that. When he wrote a letter to 1 Timothy, to Timothy, Timothy responded to him, and now 2 Timothy is a response to what Timothy has going on. So what we talked about was that Timothy was young, or in 1 Timothy, in the chapter, 1 Timothy, that whole book was young, and God said at this point, Paul says, don't let anybody despise you because of your youth. Encouraging him and say, you go back in, I've already shown you some things, implement that. So Timothy became the bishop over the churches in Ephesus. Everything was going well. Things were going well. Then we talked about how Nero came into power and started persecuting Christians. And people who were serving the Lord started denouncing Jesus, going back to idol worship. And all the people, many of the people who were leaders in the church, turned against Timothy and also against Paul. So last week we talked about even Alexander the coppersmith, the metal worker. Alexander was one of the leaders in the church. Always there, open up the hut, close the hut down. Make sure that the megaphone was there, they have a sound system. He was always there. But he owned a metal workshop. And what people were doing back in that day, they had metal gods, little gods, little pagan gods, all in their windows and all around their houses. And so when they got saved, they threw those away. And in turn, his business decreased. But when Nero came to power, they ran back to their pagan gods, and he was one of the few people that could make the metal pagans. So Alexander at this point says, do I keep on serving the Messiah, or do I go after the money? And he went after the money, and in turn started slamming Timothy and Paul. That's the context. So by the time we get here, people are leaving from the church. All the tithes are down, the offerings are down, things are looking bad. The people are not coming to church. They're being persecuted. The folk that were trusting God, they have now turned away from God. They are now serving pagan gods. And what Paul says in his last letter that he ever wrote was what we talked about last week: instant, in season, and out of season. And although we didn't understand the word instant right now as a review to end up being quick, we talked about last week that instant means to stand upon or take a firm stand. It also means, we talked about, what does it mean right here again? Stay on one's assigned post. I got to let you know, believer, God has put you on assignment. Don't you let the devil take you away from the assignment God gave you. I'm not saying just because you have an assignment doesn't mean everything's going to be easy. Just because you have an assignment doesn't mean everything's going to be rosy. But if God puts you there, God is obligated to take care of you while you're there. He doesn't have to move you to a different place. And too many